We have all criticized Rockstar for ghosting their fans, shutting down the modding community, or milking the crap out of GTA 5 and online, but one thing that still makes us love these guys is their dedication to creating the best and the most realistic open-world experiences in the entire gaming industry. And the maps are a huge part of that. Right from the early days of GTA, Rockstar has been all about building open worlds packed with detail to the tiniest possible level. From finding newspaper clippings nailed to a wooden wall highlighting long-forgotten crimes or someone trapped deep down in a secret underwater bunker, every inch of GTA maps has something to offer. It's a testament to how dedicated Rockstar is to handcrafting worlds that feel alive, with subtle details and random events waiting to surprise you around every corner. Unlike most developers, Rockstar goes the extra mile to add details that might not even catch your eye unless you're like, really paying attention. And most of these details aren't random at all. They are mostly real-world incidents or events recreated by the developers. But it's not just world events. You'll come across all kinds of people in GTA games, like a guy dressed as a zombie in Vinewood, a creepy cannibal cult wandering around naked on the mountains, gangs fighting for their turfs, police chasing down criminals, hitchhikers on their way to God knows where, and even homeless people asking for help. It's just wild, but it feels real. Every little thing in GTA games feels incredibly close to real life, as if it's all been carefully thought out down to the tiniest detail. Rockstar doesn't just stop at surface-level accuracy, they go all in. They spend serious money on field research, sending scout teams to take thousands of photos, like 250,000 photographs for GTA 5, and hundreds of hours of videos of real-world cities, observing people in their natural habitat, learning their way of life to replicate it with precision. There were even rumors that Rockstar sends out letters to local business owners, asking for their permission to photograph the interiors of their establishments to recreate them in the game. You can see one of these letters that I've got my hands on. I can't confirm if it's real or fake, but seeing how it's Rockstar, that doesn't sound too far-fetched. Since the days of GTA 3 back in early 2000, Rockstar has been mimicking real-life cities to build their game worlds, and they've done it with an impressive amount of accuracy and care. You can see Los Angeles as Los Santos, New York as Liberty City, San Francisco as San Fierro, and of course, Miami as the iconic Vice City. Each and every city closely resembles their real-life counterparts, with iconic locations and landmarks. But you might have noticed how Rockstar uses real cities to create its virtual world, but they never use the real names. Even all the brands in Rockstar are one way or the other based on brands in the real world, but they all have different names. Los Angeles becomes Los Santos, New York becomes Liberty City, Statue of Liberty becomes Statue of Happiness, Audi becomes Obey, Los Angeles River becomes Los Santos Storm Drain, and I could just go on and go on, but you get the point. So why does Rockstar do that even though city names are public domain and can be used by anyone? Since GTA's whole point from the start has been to create a parody of the real world, it makes more sense that they use fake names that allow the studio to exaggerate on the satirical aspects and mock real-life people, places, and events without getting into the legal issues. And we've seen that happening more often than not, like the recent Florida Joker case. This is why all the brands, companies, and even vehicle manufacturers in GTA have their own made-up names. And this has been the case since the beginning of GTA in 1998. The first game featured all three major cities, San Andreas, Liberty City, and Vice City, which Rockstar polished and evolved throughout the 3D and HD era of the series. GTA 3 was the first 3D game that really took the open-world experience to the next level, creating the signature GTA world that was free to explore, filled with life and chaos, and for the most part, exactly like the New York, but with PS2 graphics. It was also the first GTA game created with a licensed renderware engine, which not only allowed them to recreate iconic New York locations with decent enough visuals for its time, but also provided players with new ways to interact with the game world. GTA 3 inspired a whole host of open-world games like the True Crime series, Mercenaries, and even Saints Row. And while the world looked detailed for its time, GTA 4 really brought New York to life, adding more details to every building, every street, and even the interiors. We could see graffiti on the walls, litters on the streets, cafes filled with people doing their thing, water, well, actually acting like water, and so much more. And this is largely due to the transition to their own Rage engine, which is much more advanced and continues to be improved to this day. Even if we look at San Andreas and GTA 5, we can see how far Rockstar has come, and it's not just the visuals. I mean, there's a clear and a major difference between the two. But there are many more features that make 5 World feel more alive. Entering buildings without loading screens, the wildlife, dogs we can actually pet and hang out with, more mini games scattered across the map, secrets and mysteries that we are still trying to uncover after a decade of the game's release. Now that's a world that we don't see in any other game besides Rockstar's. Over the years, GTA has inspired a ton of open world games, but when we actually compare them to this series, you can see the huge difference. You will often find reused or simply generic assets scattered around in many games, whereas in GTA, it feels like every model is sculpted individually to make it as close to its real-world counterpart as possible, with their own twist, of course. While Rockstar does design their models from scratch, they also use real-life photos to create textures for buildings to achieve this realism. Photos that are either taken by their own teams or bought from online sources. And it doesn't stop at building textures. There are actual photographs hidden in the game, like this one in the basement of AC Tower in San Andreas, which shows a real historical moment, and there are probably hundreds of these that we haven't even paid attention to. It's these little details that truly set Rockstar's game worlds apart from others. But it's not limited to just the buildings, or the roads, or the beaches. The people living in these cities and counties feel just as authentic. How they talk, how they look, how they handle their day-to-day affairs are inspired by real people. To make that happen, Rockstar has conducted interviews with all kinds of people, former undercover special agents, ex-convicts, even villagers from remote areas, to study their habits, accents, and their way of life. Rockstar has also reportedly hired real gang members to do voiceovers, and they even let them tweak the original scripts to make the dialogue and delivery feel more natural. But they don't stop there. They even recreate real-world events in the game too. Cause for example, the gang wars in San Andreas were based on the actual rivalry between the Bloods and Crips in the late 80s and 90s. This level of authenticity set the tone for the entire game and made it feel even more grounded in reality. Sure, they have sparked a ton of controversies and debates over the years about their influence on players, especially younger ones, but they've never shied away from showing reality in their own way. These big dramatic events do make GTA's world feel connected to real life, but it's the small details that really pull you in. Every street in GTA has a name. Local police departments have different vehicles depending on whether you're in a big city or a small county, and even the cars reflect the area you're in. In downtown areas, you'll spot exotic cars, while out in the countryside or smaller towns, you'll see older models. You can even catch people driving tractors across fields or delivering cargo on trucks. For Rockstar, it's never been about making bigger maps. They have always tried to create worlds that strike a good balance between fun and realism. I mean, what's the point of having massive worlds if they don't give you the incentive to actually want to explore them, or worlds so full of unnecessary depth that makes you overwhelmed? Take True Crime New York City, for example. That game featured a map twice the size of GTA 4, which roughly took players around 24 minutes to get from one point to the other, which is huge. Sure, that does sound exciting, but in reality, the map felt empty, and traveling around took a lot of time, which often became a chore without any real incentive. Unlike in GTA games, where almost every mission feels unique and gives you a purpose to explore the outskirts and go into remote areas, missions in True Crime just become repetitive after a while. Sure, not all of the areas in GTA games are exciting, like some of the countryside areas in 5, which are often barren and boring, but Rockstar always gives you a reason to explore those as well. Take Mount Chiliad, for instance. It's a remote place that's hard to get to and fairly lifeless, but it's packed with secrets. From ghosts to alien conspiracies, graves to UFOs, there's so much hidden there, which encourages you to explore even the most remote areas of the map in hopes to stumble upon a new mystery. And Rockstar does this with a brilliant sense of subtlety, like a seemingly random dog you'll find wandering a cemetery. It's easy to overlook, but if you follow the dog, it'll lead you to its owner's grave. This was actually a clever nod to Greyfriars Bobby, the real-life dog who famously spent 14 years guarding his owner's grave. Or how there's normal-looking graffiti on a brick wall near Vinewood Hills that reads 1807, which turns out to be a clever reference to the Manson family, the criminal cult that was responsible for 7 murders as indicated in that number. And if you actually follow that arrow and head to the house, especially at night, you can find NPCs partying there. But when you slightly touch them, they simply fall and die, which is eerie. These subtle details and references to real-life events are what breathe life into the world of GTA. And while Rockstar does take inspiration from real cities to create game worlds in GTA, they're never exactly one by 1 recreations. Los Santos, for example, spans about 3.4 square miles, while just the real Los Angeles downtown is 4.7 square miles. Liberty City in GTA 4 is also smaller than Lower Manhattan, but it's not because Rockstar can't make an exact replica. They absolutely could. However, there are practical reasons why they choose not to. Firstly, creating a one-by-one city or cities with the level of detail that Rockstar aims for in their games would take an insane amount of storage to save all those models and textures. They could range from anywhere between a few megabytes to gigabytes of storage. GTA 5 already requires significant storage space, and if they were to create an exact replica of the city, the size would increase by a lot. Secondly, Rockstar always aims to create realistic-looking models, and that requires a ton of research and, consequently, time. And we have seen how development time for each GTA game has increased by several years. So, if we were to see a one-by-one representation of real-life cities in GTA, it would simply add more years to develop the game as per Rockstar's standard. But bigger maps aren't always better. GTA 5 has a map that is almost twice the size of San Andreas and almost 4 times the size of GTA 4. But with a world so big, 5 has areas that no one seems to be interested in because they feel empty. So why would we want a massive world that's mostly empty as opposed to a world that is small but filled to the brim with side activities, secrets, Easter eggs, clever nods to pop culture, and NPCs actually living there? And speaking of living and breathing worlds, GTA 5 might be the most advanced in the series, but when it comes to realistic game worlds, RDR2 is probably the best in the world right now. It features a breathtaking world that is filled with life where NPCs have more believable routines. They hang out in groups, the world changes with or without you around. The wildlife is more realistic as well, and there are changing weathers that actually impact the lifestyle of people living there. And GTA 6 is building up on a lot of those features, and from what I've learned, we are going to get the most realistic game world ever, where 70% of the buildings will be enterable, smarter NPCs, reasonable cops, tons of exotic animals and pets, people chilling out by the beaches, hanging out in groups, side hustlers trying to make a living. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's plenty more that we will soon find out when the game finally comes out in 2025, hopefully without a delay. Differences aside, Rockstar is undoubtedly the best game studio that surely takes its sweet time, delaying the games for years, but delivers the absolute best open worlds that are so rich that you could spend months or even years exploring and still be amazed with new discoveries.